We have seen how to think of selling search ads as a matching market. Each ad has a value per click, and each slot where you can put an advertisement has an expected number of clicks, and this determines the value of that slot for the advertiser. We also expressed market clearing prices with per click prices. This is more natural in the context of search ads that are getting paid by per clicks. But where do these prices come from? There are billions of queries each day, and setting prices for each query would be an awful lot of prices to set. Each query and each slot would be an awful lot of prices to set. So indeed what happens is that instead of setting prices for everything, search engines use auctions to sell these slots. So if we had a single slot, we have seen second price auction, and that would be a very natural way to sell a single slot. We ask people for bids, we sell the slot to the person who bids the highest, and use the second highest bid to set the price for the slot. But in search, we have multiple slots, and the slots are different. They have different values, different number of clicks, so different values for the advertisers. So how should we sell slots this way when there are multiple slots? Recall the value maximizing solution is to sort the advertisers by their value and then assign them in this order to the different slots, the highest valued advertisers to the top slot, which is the most best for the number of clicks. So a natural thing to do would be to simply ask them for their value. Ask them for their values, which we're going to call bits, and sort them in the order of their bits and assign them to the slots this way. It's actually much less clear what we should charge them. What is the right price to pay for these slots? And different slots clearly should cost different amount of money. Maybe the simplest and most natural first idea is to simply charge them the value they named. Instead of asking them for their value, effectively we're asking them for a willingness to pay for the ad and simply charge them whatever number they named as their willingness to pay for a click. In fact, the very first search engine originally was using first price ads. But first price has issues. This is effectively the same as what we did for first price in auctions, and first price has issues. It has even issues on a single item, and it turns out to have led to unstable bidding patterns. So just to understand how this works, it's interesting to think about how the bidding happened. So advertisers might be competing for the top slot. They each trying to initially bid something low and hope to get the slot for some low price. But they up each other because they would, each want to get the top slot. So bidding a little bit more than the other guy gets me the top slot, and that gradually raises the price until the second top slot becomes too expensive. At that point, some advertiser might say, let me drop out of this race. There is a great second slot here. It goes much cheaper than the top slot, and it's almost as good for the number of clicks. So they suddenly drop their price and bid a much lower price. Of course, at that point, the other advertisers might drop their price too and say, I don't have to pay so high for the top slot. And now one can get the top slot for a lower price, and the price war starts again. So once people saw that first price is leading to this kind of instability, it was natural to think about what would be the right analog of second price for the multiple slot situation that would hopefully solve this and lead to more stable bidding patterns. And that's what the industry today uses. What they do is, again, ask people for bids, and I put up some proposed bids here of 8, 7, 5, and 1, order them by bids and assign them to slots, but charge every advertiser for not his bid, but in fact the lowest bid he could have bid to keep his slot. That is the next lowest number. So the top slot went to advertiser C with a bid of 8, But he didn't actually have to bid 8 to get the top slot. It would be enough to bid anything above $7, and that would have put him above the advertiser D. So what we're going to charge him is this lowest bid. He could have bid 7, the next highest bid. That would keep him in the top slot. And similarly, advertiser D, who bid 7, in order to keep his slot, he has to bid something above 5, the next highest bid. So we're going to turn 5 into his price and charge him the next highest bid, which is 5, for every click he gets. This method is called the generalized second price, and it's widely used in selling search ads. So if you want to think about the outcome, it might be useful to work out what the value is for a particular advertiser here. So for example, for advertiser D, his value for the item is 7, and in our example, he actually bid 7, and he went to the second slot. He's paying a price of 5 for this every click, so his net value on a click is 7 minus 5 is 2, and he's getting 8 clicks, so his total value for the slot is 2 times 8 is 16. And similarly, we can work out net values for every other advertiser here. So we're going to see, this is generalized second price, and this finishes our description of what the method is. We're going to think of this as a game in which the advertisers are playing by bidding values. And these bids determine both the order of which they're getting the slots, higher bid gets higher slot, but also determine the price. The advertiser doesn't determine his own price by the bid, the way it used to in the first price version, but instead the other advertisers determine his price. The next lowest bid is what determines the price they have to pay for a single click.